How you doing? You hear me okay?
I had to switch input devices to speak.
Oh, no
So
worries. It sounded great, whatever you're playing. What is that?
mhm. It's a mini freak and hydrosynth uh, to no
Good stuff.
only one of the patches homemade, the one with the sequence, and the others from oh, I can't remember his name. He always signs his patches with R.A. Ra.
Oh, yeah.
A good patch, lo-fi sweet.
I'm so behind. I'm kind of hydrogen a while back, and I don't even use it as much as I should. I think last time I turned it on was about 6 months ago. It's terrible.
Mm, mm.
Not because I don't like it, just it's not enough time to play everything. So,
I, I
so
know that.
in fact, I just ordered a Roland TD-17 kit on special,
Mm,
so that should be showing up at some point, and that's going to take a lot of my time now. So,
yeah. Um, like the last time, I know you wasn't uh, on, weren't on
I
last
was,
time.
yeah, I actually had work nonsense to be,
Yeah.
which was terrible. So,
Mm. But the other guests, I did a replacement show last week too.
no, I saw it.
Um,
Yeah, it was good.
yeah,
Yeah, I went back
thanks.
and watched it. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's a guest that makes it good. Me alone is not
wow, I mean,
more than some jamming.
yeah,
Uh,
it's fun to have something anyway. I mean, um, keep the flow going, right?
yeah,
People have their time slots already planned out for entertainment, and it's nice to have as entertaining as we can be. It's
yeah,
nice to have something for if people want to, hang
yeah,
out. It's
indeed.
just cool. So.
Yeah. But last time I asked the guests about their background, and
Hmm.
I will do the same with you. So both how you got into music, but also uh, what is your education? I know you do some chemistry and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, music goes way back to, I mean, my dad was always into, my dad played trumpet as a kid. So he had his own, actually it was technically a cornet, but, he played trumpet as a youth and he had his own. So it was always around the house when I was a kid. And, so when I was in, let me think, I tried doing stuff earlier because, as kids, you guys probably have the same thing. I know they do in the UK. Where they call them recorders, but here they just call them song flutes. These little simple plastic flutes, or like the little seven-hole flutes, that are kind of diminished. They're kind of short. I actually have one somewhere, but I'm not here. And so all the kids kind of had to do that in at a certain grade, play along in class, whether you were musical or not. You just kind of had to do it. That's probably my earliest memory of doing any kind of performance or learning an instrument in school. But in fourth grade, I actually uh, started playing violin and was doing performances with the school orchestra. So apparently, I was good enough to do that. I don't remember because it's a long time ago, but it was cool for a while, and I should have stuck with it because violin is actually pretty nice. But I changed to brass in fifth grade, and I wanted to play trumpet as well, but the mouthpiece on a trumpet is very, very small. And at least as a kid, I had trouble with the embouchure to get the tone right and everything. So I said, what else could I play that has a better mouthpiece? And so I started playing the euphonium or baritone, as they call it, and it's like a mini tuba. So it has the straight bell instead of the big thing that comes out or curved or whatever. It's just bell goes straight up out of the body, and it's fairly chunky. And I was always a pretty big kid and doing sports and stuff a lot as well. So it was not a hard thing for me to carry it around because this kind of big case and everything. It was basically a rental. So and I love the tone. I mean, of course, it's a nightmare at home because you're practicing and it's just a lot of bass going through all the walls and stuff. So I'm sure my parents hated it, but I had a lot of fun playing it. I got really good at it. I actually was doing concerts at school.
Well,
So fifth and sixth grade, did that a lot.
my brother played drums, so I think it was worse.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
same kind
yeah.
of thing. But it was also fun too because you could just I would take it out back sometimes on a weekend, like when I'm practicing, and it was just fun to go outside and do that big wow kind of sound with it, where you just kind of let it all out, and there's this big blast of energy, and I could just hear it reverberate through the neighborhood. So, it's probably pissing off a lot of people with that one, but I was having some fun. It wasn't as cool as a guitar or as drums or whatever, but I was still having fun with it. So that's probably the first two instruments I played. I was reading music on site, and everything was just easy because you're a kid, right? And I guess I had a knack for it as well on top of it. And then a lot more sports and sports and sports. And so after sixth grade, I kind of dumped doing any kind of music for school, which was really stupid because basically anyone who has kids out there, if they're into music, don't let them stop because I literally stopped till almost the end of high school when I got seriously into the common new wave at the time and synth pop and stuff. Depeche Mode was everywhere, brand new stuff, and well, not brand new. It's been out for a couple of years, but I just got into all this sound, and I was like, as a kid, I was drawn to synthesizers with movie scores, and my dad picked up an old copy of Switched on Bach at a garage sale on a record, and the original, um, before Wendy transitioned. So it's kind of valuable because it's the original pressing. And so it just blew me away, right? It's just the music is amazing already. Bach is still pretty much my favorite composer, although I have tons of them. So the combination of the musicianship, the music itself, the sounds, everything else is just unbelievable. And to this day, it's still like the best Moog demo ever of a Moog modular system. Because there's a whole sound effects section there. The interlude on the Brandenburg Concerto Number 3, that second movement is just an interlude just to screw around. It's never really an official track where people follow the notes precisely. It's designed to be kind of an interlude that you can, if you listen to everyone's version of it, they're all different. So Wendy was able to go nuts, right? And just do this crazy sound demo, which to this day is just cool to go back and just listen to that. So I always liked the electronic stuff. I always liked the that kind of sound. And I was into Devo and Peter Gabriel and everything else. So during high school, one of my friends kind of into the stuff, and he was learning guitar. He had played violin a lot more I did, so he was actually a pretty good violin player. And we used to hang out and play, all the stupid LucasArts games and Sierra video games and stuff like that on his computer. And one day he said, I want to get we'd go to the Guitar Center and look at all the cool stuff, like, oh, this brand new, you know, D50, or then the JD800 came out, and we're all just like, wow, this stuff is so cool. It's so expensive. We're never going to be able to afford something like this, even though it sounds great. And, decades later, of course, I have all those because eBay and just going crazy for that stuff. But he went and he got a Roland JV30, which is basically a sound canvas and a keyboard with kind of minimal editing. But he got that, and he got a copy of Easy Vision. So it's Opcode's Vision reduced down to like $100 version of it. And we just learned how to do MIDI stuff on there, and what system exclusive data is. And then I finally bought some of my own stuff. My first, other than having some Casio crap over the years, cheap kind of the equivalent of the Porta Sound stuff on the Yamaha side. I had finally bought. I wanted to get a sampler, so I said I had SK1 for years. It was a lot of fun going around the kitchen sampling and animal sounds and stuff. Because at the time I started to work, um, toward the end of high school, I started to work at the children's zoo locally, because my interest was biology, um, and I basically was going to be First, I was pre-med for a while, then I was pre-vet for a while. I got experience doing both in the facilities and didn't like either one, even though I liked the science of them. Settled on biology because I always liked studying uh, science and nature and animals and plants and stuff. So, um, but so the zoo ended up being a great resource for recording sounds and stuff for sampling later. But I wanted to get a proper sampler. So when I was in college, I got saved up for an Emax 2 rack because it was a hell of a lot cheaper than an Emax keyboard. And I was like, I also want to get a synth because even though it can be a synth, technically it has synthesis features in it. Um, it's more looked at as a sampler, and I just wanted a kind of a quote unquote proper synth. So the best thing I could get at the time that was affordable while getting the Emax 2 was a Kawai K12. So it's the Kawai K1 with some added goodies, rhythm section, and I think they added some effects. I forgot the exact difference, but anyway, so that had aftertouch and velocity on the keys, nice key bed, and the sound was pretty decent. It's like a poor man's D50 with the layering and little joystick and everything. Um, so that together made a nice little combo. Even had multi timbrality, so the it just didn't have enough polyphony. So when you started making tracks with it, it would get note stealing all over the place. And the Emax had 16 tracks, and what was it 16 voice polyphony and like 24 polyphonic, something like that. So it wasn't super crazy either. But when you put them together, it was a pretty nice thing. So I started making little demos, just screwing around and stuff, but nothing too crazy. And just kind of did that for years. Just a little bit of stuff here and there, stuff for the museum zoo that I worked at, sound effects library kind of stuff. Like I was really inspired by Bernie Krause. I don't know if you guys know who Bernie Krause is, but most music people know him from Beaver and Krause, the None Such Guide to Electronic Music. He used to sell mini Moogs for Moog. He did a bunch of electronic music stuff, right? But he actually is a bioacoustician and is doing like audio research at the California Academy of Sciences, which is my favorite museum growing up in San Francisco. And I even was going to try and intern with him at one point because I did some volunteering in some other departments when I was there, just being a science nerd and stuff. But he always inspired me. His exhibits at the museum were incredible because he had these soundscapes he created from recordings he did all over the world. Some of these habitats no longer exist. They've been deforested, they've been depleted one way or the other through climate issues and stuff. And so his recordings are special because some of these things are now extinct or just the environment that itself is gone. But he would recreate these environments. His African watering hole he had in the African Hall was like one of the crown jewels of that exhibit for I don't know a couple decades. And when they had the earthquake in '89, the big Loma Prieta earthquake, and the building had to be redone completely because of structural issues and other kinds of problems. The only kind of remaining structure they kept was African Hall and just reinforced it. But in the process, unfortunately, they wanted to add more a live element, so they took his exhibit out and put this penguin thing in, which is it's cool, but it's not. I really had a thing for his environmental sounds and stuff, and they had this amazing African watering hole with a timed light cycle to simulate a 24-hour day at a watering hole, compressed into I think it was like 5 minutes or whatever, 5 to 10 minutes, and you could just sit there on these fake rocks with amongst all these amazing taxidermy animals in various poses of drinking and looking and stuff, and the primates in the trees and wildebeest and all kinds of antelopes and stuff around. And you just sit there and you chill out, and the sound fades out into the dark, into the nighttime mode, and then back into the daytime mode as the lights change, and you feel like you're there. It's this magical experience. So I was doing a lot of sound effects stuff back then, and copying his ideas and stuff, doing stuff for the zoo. We had an exhibit on tropical rainforests, so I did a soundscape with the Emax too, pulling basically random sounds off of all these nature CDs I had, and a few recordings I made myself. We had uh, a blue, it was a green winged macaw, giant parrot, at the zoo for years, and my boss finally had enough because it was always screeching, and he was not really a parrot guy, at least not the big parrots. Um, so he gave it to one of the ladies who worked in the back office to take home. Well, I thought, well, this would be great to put it in the rainforest exhibit. So I went over to her house and recorded the parrot doing some sounds, and I put a little reverb on it to match the soundscape that I was building. And then I also had gone on a really amazing trip to Madagascar back in 1990 with my instructor at the time who also did eco tours. Unfortunately, he just died like about 7 months ago. So just a combination of age and having some infections from some injuries he had and stuff. It was really sad. And his wife had died like from horrible cancer, like just a couple months before that. So I think he missed his wife a lot. He was just kind of broken after that. So it was very sad, but amazing guy. Contributed so much to society and to all the people he knew. But his eco tour group was great, and so we went on this trip to Madagascar, and they were doing field recordings all the time because they're into that. They're into bird watching and field recording and conservation and all that. So I had these amazing recordings we had of the giant lemur in Madagascar called the Indri. And if you know, they're called the spirits of the forest. They have this kind of wailing sound that echoes through the forest, and they captured it perfectly. I mean, it's just a cassette recorder, but it sounded amazing, right? So I said, this is perfect to put in the exhibit. So the problem is, to anyone who doesn't know what they are, that they sound almost like humpback whale songs. They kind of reverberate through the ocean. Um, so I had to put a sign up about the recordings that I put in the exhibit, like, "Hey, you hear those things that sound like whales? This is actually this." I put a graphic of the animal and stuff, so it became an educational thing as well as a correction of all the crazy questions people had about these sounds. So not only was it fun to put these environments together, but also teaches you what kind of how people perceive things, and now you have to curate things a little bit better. And so being into education and stuff, going up through college and wanting to eventually be a teacher and a researcher, which I got derailed as a whole of the story. But the it was my way to kind of get in more into the educational mode, and presentation is very important. You can't just throw stuff out there and expect people to get it, especially when it's esoteric stuff like weird animal sounds and stuff. So it taught me a lot about presentation and you know let people know what you're doing. Don't just throw it out there and expect them to get it. And it kind of works that way too with music, right? I mean, you just unless you want to be perceived as strange or avant-garde, or whatever, you just throw any random stuff out there that's not the norm. People kind of gonna go, What are you doing there?" And so sometimes you kind of have to explain yourself, even with music and with sound design and stuff. So kind of early lesson in that. Just don't just go and assume that people are going to get what you're doing or want to get what you're doing. And sometimes you have to you know explain yourself and be more present with how people are going to perceive anything you do.
Yeah, but you don't have to explain everything. I
Well,
remember, I remember a concert I did, one of my first concerts, um, and there was a guy who asked after the concert if he could have a copy of the texts, the lyrics we
mm,
sang, and he got them, and he he got a lot. No, he understood the text, the lyrics in a completely different way than we meant when we wrote them, and we decided uh, it, we didn't talk about it, but we just decided to let him feel how he felt, and nodded when he said it was about that, but it was not. Um,
yeah.
so so people, no, sometimes you shall not explain.
Well, the
Uh,
magic is there too. You want to keep the people guessing sometimes, right?
yeah,
But in a scientific institution, you definitely want to explain yourself, especially if it's hard enough these days. Back then it was pretty magical as far as people into science, and taking people who have some kind of authority or some kind of, you've done your due diligence, you've worked hard, you've gotten a degree of some kind, you maybe published something, you have some reputation or whatever, and that's usually good enough for most people, right? This, you may not be, no one's truly an expert at anything, but you're about as close as you can get when you've got a PhD in something that you're researching and you're publishing. You're not just sitting on your PhD. Oh, look, I'm amazing. I got a PhD or whatever, master's, whatever you have. But you're actually you're putting stuff out there, right? You're doing research. You're explaining stuff. It's getting peer reviewed. You're getting, you know either shot down or not shot down. But either way, it's you're not just talking. It's talk is cheap. You're actually putting stuff out there and putting stuff into action. And that's enough for most people who are scientifically minded. But the average public person these days is questioning everything with no background, with no authority of any kind, yet totally believing a random charlatan with no background, with no proof of anything, no
Yeah,
publishing, no anything,
yeah,
because the
because he
idea suits
asks
their
questions.
worldview or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's totally ridiculous now. I
yeah,
mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't go into science teaching and research, because I'd be really pissed off right now, because no one respects that anymore. You work your butt off, and you're doing your best to help, you know, nature and humanity, or whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. And people just piss all over it because they go, "Well, I have this conspiracy theory about this and that, and I believe so and so." I'm like, "Well, so and so's an idiot. So and so has no background." Or so and so used to have a background and now is a sellout because now they have this crazy idea about, some, just name it these days. There's so many bizarre things within science and pseudoscience. Um, even on the food, simple stuff that people take for granted every day, food science. These idiots like David Avocado Wolf and the Food Babe, and all these charlatans out there saying, "Watch out for chemicals. Chemicals are bad. Don't eat chemicals." I'm like, you understand water is a chemical, right? Everything is a chemical. Then they don't eat something you can't pronounce. You know. Well, if you try to read vitamins in their chemical form, good luck trying to pronounce most of them. The average person, if you don't have a chemical background or biology background or medical background, you're going to be screwed. Right? Go, I can't eat this. This is terrible. You know.
yeah,
And and so you know everyone knows what sodium chloride is, because it's commonly talked about as, table salt. But
yeah,
uh, there are lots of other sources of sodium in your diet. So, oh, sodium is bad. Sodium. Oh, watch out for sodium. It's like, well, no, they mean sodium chloride. There's other sources of sodium in your diet that's become some part of some essential things that you need to have. And it's totally nuts.
yeah.
It's
But
there's
let's get back to
Yeah.
you and
Sorry. Yeah. Sidetracked there. So I was into the sound design stuff and doing these soundscapes. I did one for the Centennial of Palo Alto exhibit. It was celebrating 100 years of Palo Alto, 1994. So I did a whole soundscape of really cool sound effects I curated for the exhibits they put in place. There was a blacksmith shop, there was a general store, there was a few other like storefronts they built that you could walk through and have all this. The kids could see this experience of what it was like back then. So I had to source all these crazy sounds, and then I also, well, back then there was the Stanford Bell Tower, so I got a recording of a bell tower to put in the distance, and I got a recording of the kind of the horse and buggy going up and down the street. And this is the early '90s, so I didn't have many digital recording options back then, at least not cheap ones. So for the exhibit, so I basically used answering loop tapes, like 6 minute or 8 minute loop tapes. So I basically set up two separate loop tapes in the exhibit hall, and the one side was for the shops that were over there, the other side was shops over there, and I tried to time it so when the horse left the one side, it picked up on the other tape on the other side. So as you're walking through the exhibit, there was this idea of surround sound, so to speak. Again, copying from Bernie Krause, one of my heroes. So and people loved it. It was just really, really fun to have this immersive soundscape. And again, I wasn't making any music there. Um, I think I did a on the on the previous forest one I talked about, I did the animal sounds, but I also did it. They wanted to have this mascot for because it's a kids museum, right? So with the Wizard of Wonder, right? So they had this graphic for the Wizard of Wonder, and he's like, "Hey, here's this wonderful thing here, kids," and he's got his little hat on and stuff. And so they wanted a voice of the Wizard of Wonder. So I did some kind of old man voice with some kind of synthesizer flourishes, like his magical sound that he makes. So I got to do some synthesizer stuff on that. It was kind of fun. So that was my early stuff of actually doing anything that the public got to hear and kind of a polished, so-called polished thing. And then years went by screwing around. Wasn't really recording anything except some demos for myself on the Emacs because it had a nice sequencer and arpeggiator and stuff. And then a friend, a couple guys I met through Guitar Center, buying stuff here and there over the years, who just started chatting in the stores and hanging out and stuff, and they were giving me their discounts, so I was getting stuff almost at cost. So, and this is before I discovered eBay, but it was still great. I was getting deals on stuff, and then all of a sudden I discovered eBay. I'm like, holy shit! I can get all that stuff I used to drool over in the stores when I was a kid, you know. So the first thing I had to get was like a D50 and a G8800 and you name it, all kinds of stuff. And that's when I started amassing just crazy, crazy amounts of stuff and spending so much on things. I was eating like peanut butter sandwiches some months because I was broke, but I was broke but happy. It's just like it was kind of I mean, like my moniker is, it was addictive. I mean, I just was nuts. It was just like, God, this is so much fun. I'll get this. I'll get this. And my original goal after getting some showpiece ones was to I want to get a good example of every type of synthesis. So I want a good FM synth. I want a good additive synth. I want a good wavetable synth. I want a good, and this is back before everything was hybrid commonly like it is now, where there's all kinds of mixes of stuff. And you could get, things are kind of specifically this or specifically that. And I had some overlap and I had some things I got duplicates of and stuff, tech, because I liked it. And yeah, Wild Goose. Three, I have a spreadsheet and I haven't updated it for a while, and it's a sad spreadsheet because it's giant. I lost track of the last, I don't know, so many months or whatever stuff. But last count, if you counted like effects units and racks and keyboards, and I'm not even talking about soft synths. I have a giant load of soft synths, which I actually got before I could afford the hardware. I forgot to mention that. For all those people who are anti-soft synth and stuff, it was a great way for me to get into the stuff pretty cheap and have emulations of things that were great that I couldn't afford. I still can't afford a Model 15 or one of the bigger, fancier Moogs, but the Model 15 app is awesome, right? So it's perfectly fine with me. And until the third wave came out, I was never going to get a PPG, right? So I had to get a PPG emulator, a VST of some kind. And the same thing with uh, excuse me, the Alka Synthex and all kinds of stuff that they have emulations for now. I was just like, I'll buy the major crazy showpiece things as VSTs, and then I'll start getting hardware later, right? And to this day, I still kind of do that. But the spreadsheet is, yeah, it's literally hundreds and hundreds of things. So it's pretty kind of crazy, actually. Um, but the good thing is when I moved, my grandmother was not doing well for a while. My mom's mom, and she wasn't doing well for a while, and like my dad said, basically, hey, I'm helping her out with stuff. If you just move in with her, take care of her, help her out with what she needs, you'll get like half your rent. Hey, that's more money for cents, right? Half your rent. You get technically, my apartment was pretty small at the time, so that's why when I was starting to do more music stuff with a friend that would come by, it was hard because I had every time we were done, I had to put stuff away. I couldn't leave it out because my bedroom was, the whole place was like 500 square feet, and that's the bedroom, the living room, the kitchen, the bathroom. It's very tiny, even for one person that's not into gear of any kind or collecting books or whatever. It's probably fine, right? But it was already too small for me when I moved in, And as I started amassing all this stuff, I didn't know where to set it up. So when he offered this chance to do that, move into like I basically reconfigured her living room as my bedroom. I put up a wall. I've actually built a wall and made my own space. So I had some privacy. I could make noise and not wake her up, stuff like that. So I moved into her place. Uh, One of those. It's a really nice double wide mobile home. And of course, the mobile home park. Oh, you're trailer trash, right? All that kind of stigma. It's bullshit now because there's all kinds of people in the parks who are families, all different ages, to tech professionals as well as teachers and stuff like that. So it's not in some parts of the U.S. there is a real element of trailer trash, but not in this area. The stuff's kind of expensive actually. You guys know the housing here is nuts. I mean, a piece of crap house here is like 2.5 million. You know, easy. So not everyone can afford fancy stuff. So the housing has to be cheap sometimes. Anyway, so that allowed me to move into the spot. And the first thing I did before I even put a bed down or before I put bookshelves or whatever, I said, where am I going to put this gear? Where am I going to put that gear? Did a whole drawing of that. I said, this is going to be it. And then I'll worry about other stuff. I'll figure out where I sleep later. This is more important. I want to set up the studio. Just you never get a chance to do that, right? You always have to kind of figure it into, oh, I need this little spot here and this little spot here. It's like, no, everything else is last priority. Where do I put the gear? I need to put all my racks up. I need to rack up as many synths as I can. Stack up. I don't have. I know Wagyu has like endless rack space for stuff, but because the situation of the room, I couldn't just put giant walls of racks. So I have various like kind of stacks of racks in certain parts of the room. Some are in cases, kind of lashed together, and some are just kind of stacked on shelves. They're pretty sturdy. We have earthquakes a lot, but I mean nothing just shaking around too much. And I started investing in a lot of those 3-tier racks because the Jasper runs are nice, but they take up a lot of room. They're kind of a wide base and they are sturdy, but I wanted something that was I'm not playing stuff on the ground, so the bottom space would be a waste for me. So I like the 3-tier rack where there's plenty of space underneath. And I have a few of those. You build up those wire racks with the little plastic thingies, and you just stack the racks. I have a few of those. Those make pretty decent keyboard racks. Like Nick Bat has one on his show. You see it in the back. He's got stuff stacked on it. Those are really handy as wire racks. um, and I just did that whole setup. Uh, that was first priority. Everything else was secondary. And it really helped a lot to allow me to now have things out, permanently hooked up, permanently set up. I've changed it a few times since then, but for the most part, we actually when we consolidated buildings at work recently, we had a whole ton of like wire racks and other stuff that's just basically going to get tossed or maybe sold somewhere for dirt cheap. So facilities like take whatever you want, and the wire racks aren't cheap. They're especially a big one with wheels and stuff. Those could be easily $200 or $300 or more for those things. So I got a whole bunch of those for free. Okay, now I can put this one over here and move that stuff out and do this and that. So that allowed me to have an even bigger setup of live stuff, kind of like a hallway of racks. You just walk through the hallway to get to things. And I could just put stuff all over. And then I had to have a way to hook it all up. So I had to start into the submixer thing. So I had 3 or 4 submixers in the room that go to a master mixer. And then XLR cables going here and there, and longer 4-inch cables here and there, and so kind of all route it to the master mixer, which is normally the mixer I'm playing with when I'm on Ranzee's thing. It's a 24-track Mac E mixer, and
Are,
everything is routed to that.
are you using more time on setting it up than making music? I know that feeling sometimes.
Yeah, it's so nice to have everything just kind of there and ready to go. Now, obviously, I never have enough ports for everything.
No, no.
So I developed kind of before I even got into modular. I already had those little wire racks on the wall where you put your cables in there. I already had a whole bunch of those on the wall of pre-routed cables for all the racks and modules I didn't have live plugs for, and they're all labeled, so I can just go, oh, I'm going to plug this one in now. Go to the mixer. Oh, I'm take that one out. Do that. So it's kind of like treating my synths like modular, and so I basically have this massive collection of cables ready to go for all the ports. I just can't. They're all full, so I have to just swap out. And I never got into the patch bay thing. I know some people really love the patch bay approach, but um, this system I came up with before I read about all that was fine. I just kind of left it. It looks hokey when you see it. What is all these cables everywhere and stuff? Is just like, well, it works. It's plug and play. Take that one out, put that one in. Takes me, hardly any time. And at the same time, I don't know. I had trouble with some of the early synths I bought with oxidation and noise issues and stuff. So like the when I was working at Nikon for a while, and I was friends with the shipping guy, and I discovered eBay, and I was buying crazy shit, And he said, "God, you got a lot of these music instruments coming in." He said, "Yeah, thanks for taking them for me because it's a hassle if I get them at home. They let you get personal stuff at work." And one day he noticed. He goes, "Hey, I got something at home that you might be interested in. I think it's some kind of Juno thing or something." I go, "What?" you know. And he said, "Yeah, I got into it a little bit. I never really played it. It's still in storage." I said, "Oh man, if you want to sell it, I'm sure it's good. Whatever it is, if it's that long ago and it's a Juno, I'm sure I want it, right?" So I forgot about it. And one day he came to my desk and said, "Hey, I got some for you in shipping." Oh, okay, cool. I thought it was just another shipment I got because I was ordering so much crap. Walk into shipping and he goes, "Check it out." And he has the box, and I opened it up, and it was a Juno 6. Looked like it just came off the shelf. It was in storage for 20 something years. He used it probably 5 times, put it away. No dust, no problem. It looked beautiful, right? And I said, "Oh man, how much?" He goes, "Just take it." I said, "What?" And this is back when they were probably $700 or something like that, in online. Now they're, probably about 1,200. I don't know. I forgot. A Juno 60 went way the hell up, but they're basically the same thing. It's just the 60 has memory. So, but it's fine because it's a simple synth anyway. It doesn't really need memory, right? You can dial in stuff really quickly, and if you there are patch sheets out there if you just want to like quickly dial in, you know 10% of this and 20% of that and whatever. You get pretty close pretty quick for some presets and stuff. But anyway, I was like, man, you're the coolest guy ever. This is, give this to me for free. And part of this, and this is another lesson for people, treat your coworkers nicely, especially shipping guys. They get shit on all the time. You bring them a box of stuff. Here, ship this for me. It's like not packed. It's not labeled. It's not taped up. It's not you make them do all the grunt work. I always did my own shipping, you know. I know because I want to make sure the stuff got there nicely, but I'm not going to waste that guy's time. I can spend a couple minutes and do my own packing because I'm not a dick, right? And this guy appreciated that because he got so many other people treating him like shit. So the guys always told me, "Oh, watch out for the guy. He's kind of gruff and mean and stuff." I said, well, finally, I said, "You know what? Because you're an asshole. You treat him badly. He's not gonna be nice to you if you treat him badly." But because I treat him nicely, because he's a human being, and also because it's just my way, we had always like cool discussions. He was a his heritage. He was a black guy, but his family heritage is Scottish in his background. And so he was way into like he had his family tartan pattern, and he would dress up as a Scotsman on the weekends and go to these events. And he was way into it, right? So it was really interesting to talk to him about the Scottish stuff, and so we just had a cool discussions. And so being nice to him, he gave me some stuff. It was just a nice a nice lesson there too for anyone who doesn't do that because um, I wasn't even expecting anything from the guy. He's just a nice guy working with him, chatting with him and stuff, and he gives me a awesome synthesizer for free. So, yeah, so some stuff I got for free, some stuff I got, whatever. Um, then this local shop showed up called Starving Musician. It's a small chain. Way back when I was in Santa Cruz, there was one called Musicians Trading Post, which basically folded It was essentially Starving Musician before Starving Musician, and it was like that was the first time I saw a micro Moog in person, and it was really cheap. And I went and tried to play with it, and I didn't know shit about analog synths back then or mono synths or whatever. I kind of barely touched them. I was more into like the poly synths and the modern stuff of the day. And I could have bought it for 150, but I couldn't get a sound out of it, and couldn't be bothered to go ask the guy, "Hey, how do you use this?" Because it's mostly a guitar shop, right? They don't know anything about synths. I'm like, "Well, are they selling this because it needs work, or is it just that hard to use?" I went on to something else, and I kicked myself later. I'm like, "God, micro Mo for 150? It's a steal." Um, so a lot of dumb things like that. One of my friends in college got me into the whole Emacs thing. That's how I knew I wanted one, and he had all these libraries, and he was sampling Depeche Mode bits all the time and all that kind of stuff. And he had a Yamaha CS40M. He was kind of a rich kid who basically adopted kid. His parents bought him everything. He was the first one I saw had a portable DAT recorder. It's like $1,000 back then. He's like, I don't know. You want it? I'll give it to you for 400 bucks or something like that. It's like he just didn't care. Money didn't mean anything to him. So he had Emacs. He had for a while before I met him, he had a PPG Wave. He got rid of because like, I don't really need this. Just a spoiled brat kind of thing. Um, but he had the CS40M. Let me borrow it for a couple of days, and it was glorious. I mean, beautiful sound effects with it and all kinds of stuff. But I was like, I can only get like two notes out of this thing. This is not so much fun. So again, I was being stupid, not appreciating monosynths and duo synths and stuff. And he again would have sold it to me probably for like I don't know $700 or whatever. Probably could have talked him down further. And I'm an idiot. I didn't take advantage of it. I said, well, it's kind of bulky and it takes up a lot of room on a table, and I don't know. And you have to program it with a cassette interface. It didn't have MIDI and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, eh. And now I'm looking for them, right? I love those things. But again, being stupid, not knowing what I really wanted, just kind of the problem is being in the moment. Like this is the current gear on sale. This is the current gear everyone's talking about. It's all the magazines. This is the hot stuff. And I'm missing all the cool stuff, right? I know the history of Moog. I like the Moog sound, but I didn't see a lot of Moogs around, right? Guitar Center didn't carry a lot of Moogs. And there weren't that many mom and pop shops around that had that kind of stuff. So unless you were hunting or you knew people or whatever, you didn't see all that cool stuff that would make you want to buy that as well. But then, years later, I hear Richard Devine talking about when he was young in the 80s slash 90s, and he's going to pawn shops and ARP 2600 for like $500, Minimoog for $300. I'm like, where the hell was I? I didn't look at one pawn shop when I was that age. What an idiot, right? So again, all these opportunities, uh, and I didn't take advantage because I was just in the now, like, oh, this is the sound of now, and these are these cool digital synths and or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a hard lesson to learn.
yeah, but at the same time, you did buy something else, so
I
you
did, but
couldn't live of less uh, bread and butter. Um,
I
so
did, and then it's
uh,
it's it's why to this day I still love digital synths as well. I don't care if it's digital or analog. It's a cool sound's a cool sound. But it is nice when they started adding more controls, like a JD800 or something like that with knobs, sliders, whatever. Because why the hell? Yes, it looks cool and sleek, and it's cheaper to make like a DX7 with no controls on it practically. But you just crippled the unit, right? If you're a preset jockey, great. But if you're a synthesist or you're a tweaker, you just screwed everybody over. There's no tweakability there, right? Now, of course, you could have MIDI controllers that could be reprogrammed to edit and stuff. But now there's that whole market of these custom built like those Kiwi units, those Kiwi editors and stuff. Which you can see the draw for those because they're custom made for a synth. They're colored like it. Hey, Dave, let's go. They're colored like it. They have labeled just perfectly for that synth because people really want that. They've always wanted that. But the manufacturers are just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's sleek. It doesn't have all that crap to get in your way. It
No.
just has a few
But
buttons to push, and it's so easy, right?
yeah. But back. Let's say hello to Dave first.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave.
Oh,
Hey,
hi, hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
how's it going? Where's
Where's
Kitty?
your
Yeah,
Where's your helmet?
yeah, I know.
Oh, your Mo
It's close
cookbook coming.
by. It's
Yeah.
close by. Let's just. That's if we really need it.
Is
Okay.
that thing uncomfortable? It looks kind of uncomfortable.
Um, it's a piece of plastic over your head, so
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's not actually uncomfortable. It's not like it's fitted inside. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay. It's look kind of
Yeah,
loose.
you're just laying it on top of your head.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
It
So
looked pretty small. I was like, God, is he squeezing into that thing? Or
I bet it's pretty old too. I bet that thing is when I
yeah,
got it. You know what I mean? Like it had
pretty
probably
vintage.
sat in
Yeah.
someone's house for like 30 years or something.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, made it to Colorado, so it's safe now. Thanks to its archive.
You can freak out the neighbors and go outside. They think you're some kind of space nut.
Oh, I've done some pretty crazy things with the kids.
Yeah.
Some of my friends' kids chasing around the house, and yeah, that's the house. You know what I mean? You're driving
Yeah.
by, you're like, okay, yeah, I
That's
know what
funny.
they do over there. They're okay. There's
They hear
it's
weird sounds coming out of it from your face and stuff. Oh,
all Halloween. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You're like, this
Sure.
is my opportunity to
That's cool.
appear normal. You know, no, it's fun. It's fun. So I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, no worries. So yeah, I keep going on this tangent. Sorry, just so many weird things to talk about. But the main gist of you're asking about the music part is for years it was mostly just tinkering, loving the gear, loving the sounds, having fun, doing some sound design stuff like that, but never really doing any serious music. Even though I was into music as a kid and used to perform. And I took one piano class at a junior college just to learn piano technique and posture and stuff so I could start practicing on my own because I always wanted like most people I want to get better. I don't want to just sit there and noodle and just be an idiot on the keyboard. And it helped a little bit, but you got to stick with it. It's so boring to play scales and arpeggios and all kinds of stuff all the time to learn, but you got to get those fundamentals down, although the muscle memory, otherwise you're kind of screwed. Now I use some kind of tools to help me with the chords and things like that because I'm lazy. But but back then you didn't have that. You kind of had to know it or you didn't know it, and you just make these plinky plonky things. But my friend's guitar center, one of them was telling me, "Hey, I got some cool stuff. You got to check it out." He's got a TR-808, TR-909. He was just going to sell his TR-808, but he still had the 909, and he had I think a DX11 and some other stuff at home. He said, "Come by, check it out. I'm working on some stuff." Yeah, yeah, cool. Let's check it out. And he showed me some stuff, and he started doing this kind of jam right in front of me. That's really cool. He's just turn the drum thing on, program a couple cool things, noodle a little bit, do another thing. He's doing two things at once. I said, "That's really cool." He says, "Yeah, you should come by one time and bring something over." So I did, and we kind of had fun, kind of gelled, and started having similar music tastes and stuff. And then I said, "Hey, I I've been buying all this shit. I haven't really hooked it all up yet. I had some stuff, but my place is small. But if I hook up enough stuff, I think we'll have a lot of fun because it runs the gamut of 80s, 90s, whatever." He said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." So one day he comes by and I had to. My place is so small. Like I had a futon on the floor, and I didn't have enough floor space for two people to play a bunch of gear because there's stuff all over the room. So I basically had to set up like an X stand, 3-tier X stand on my bed on plywood to give it a solid surface, and that was his area. And then I set up my area. I had kind of permanently set up with just a rack and a one X stand and my computer desk. And I was just getting ready to add another X stand over by the entry door, just barely between the closet and the entry door of the room. So at some point, I had basically three X stands set up at one time, but only one couldn't stay up because it was on my bed basically, and that would be his little area. I'd set up like all kinds of put drum machines on there. I put like plywood on the stand and put drum machine and groove box and stuff and like a microKORG and he'd bring over his his Nord Lead 2X module and some other stuff, and we just started doing these like jams. And this is basically the guy that taught me hardware jams. The stuff I do to this day, although I've watched lots of people online since then, this guy got me into that style. We actually would just sit up, we turn everything on, noodle a couple patches. Oh, that sounds cool. Oh, that would be cool. That, oh, that'd be kind of fun. And then we just start. I start picking patches on this stuff, and he's picking patches on his. And he'd like program a quick beat because he's really good at programming drum machines. I mean, this guy, he didn't even have to turn them on. He just sees the patterns in his head. And he goes, turn all the lights on, and then he would hit play. And most of the time, it would be awesome before ever hearing it. It just he knew what he was doing. And I'm like, God, I envy that guy. He's just I still can't do that to this day. I have to listen to him as I build them. But so he would make these cool things, and we just do stuff. And I didn't have a good recording setup at the time, and then we weren't using the computer because it's the basically DAW-less, the old school DAW-less stuff. And my iPod at the time, I discovered this Belkin stereo recording module for it. It lets you do a stereo input on it, as well as having a stereo mic to use. Belkin TuneCast, I think it's called, or something. And so that was our recorder. And because it's a hard drive, I could record these long takes. If we wanted to go for 20 minutes, you could do it because I had this massive hard drive in this iPod. And all our initial recordings are done this way: just stereo recorder, turn a bunch of shit on, and just jam and try not to screw it up. And I was working really hard not to screw it up because my performance was week, and I'm watching, what are you doing? Oh yeah, okay. And so there's no mics, so we're talking the whole time we're doing it. So it's a very interactive thing. And sometimes we're laughing while we're doing it, and just occasionally he wanted to do some weird vocal stuff. He'd get high, get his weed going, and he'd get these crazy ideas for vocals and stuff. And some were dark, some were really dark, and we had to have fun. And I'd run his voice through the vocoder sometimes, or through some kind of vocal processor, and we just had a lot of fun just doing random stuff. And about a year, we did about 200 recordings, maybe 300 recordings, sometimes 2 or 3 a night. And I sifted through there. We had probably about 25 cool things that you could definitely be on iTunes or whatever. To this day, I never had a chance to do that. I have them curated, kind of, sort of. Probably release them on Bandcamp and iTunes at some point. But if you've heard my Micro Addict channel, the microscope stuff, that was my science outlet these days. I put a lot of music we did together in some of the curated videos, not the live ones. The live ones, I can't be bothered to make 4 hours of ambient music because it's too boring to make. So I use an ambient generator website to do some of the music that I tweak. But I've used some of our stuff that we made on those videos because some of the music's kind of trippy, and it goes well with the weird microorganisms doing their thing on camera. But so he got me way into this stuff. And then unfortunately, good for him. He met a girl who he liked. He moved up to San Francisco with her for a while, so I didn't see him as often. And then, but once in a while, we do I bring stuff to his place, and we do little jams with little like Volcas and little Roland boutiques and stuff. And then eventually he had to move. And so just before pandemic hit, he moved over to Maine with her, where she's from. So now he's across the country. I can't even do an online jam with that new tech that they have. Like someone's 300 miles and you're within you could still do a live jam online. Can't even do that anymore. He's too far away. So I just developed my own style with these loopers. I said, I need to be a single band now. I need to use some of the techniques he taught me, and I kind of figured out along the way. Use a multi-looper. First I had an RC50, which is really nice. Then I got the RC505, and then I got into Loopy on the iPad, which is like 12 loops and sounds amazing. And there's Loopy Pro and stuff. So I just got into that whole thing of like building loops either live or building them here and there, and then live mixing them. And Loopy Pro is really cool because I should get it over here. You can see it, but you get these little spinning discs for the loops, and it's very tactile. So I can actually, if I record like 12 loops and I make a list of what I have, I can basically sit there and go, okay, now I want 3 and 4, and then I want 7 and whatever, and I make a little kind of a mind map on paper, and I could just basically go to jump between them, timing it in my head, basically. And I'm basically live DJing my own stuff from loops to a final recording live. And it's stressful as well because you want to screw it up and start over again. So it's like I perform the stuff live to the loops, then I live loop it to the mix, and then occasionally I'll do some mastering, but most of the time it's just decent enough as it is. And that was a lot of fun too because you get you that timing down, and so the live loops are good for building your chops and just having fun, and then the live mixing is that kind of I mean, I would never compare myself to this guy, but Aphex Twin is famous for doing his own music and then also DJing his own music, which is cool. He has total control of the process, and he can also change it up and make kind of live remixes and stuff on the fly. And it's kind of like doing that, which is a lot of fun, actually. It's if you guys haven't tried that, it's pretty awesome because you never know what you're going to get. I mean, I make the mind map, but occasionally I'll go, oh, I'll try this time, and I'll on the fly change things. But you have to switch that timing perfectly. You got to get that. Otherwise, it's going to sound really shitty, or you got to start over or something. So.
I was going to say I had one of the original loopies on my phone.
Yeah.
For a number of years when we first had our first kid, and I was driving to work every day, and I started to just take the phone. You had to get like a headset. Whoop. Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You okay?
Yeah, it's me. I need 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. You okay now? Oh, okay. So I would sit there and do a cappella loops, which I'm no singer really, right? But what I've learned with singing personally, right, since I don't have naturally great timbre throughout a wide range of my voice,
right.
You kind of have to. This is what I believe. All right,
you layer it, right?
You find where you have nice timbre.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you sing softly, do you have some nice timbre? When you sing stronger, do you have a nice timbre? When you sing in this specific range. So I found a few little small spots, right? Actually, maybe not totally surprising. I tend to talk with a higher register. So I started working on some different loops. Just as I was driving, you'd start with one, and then I would create a melody. And I was kind of shocked. Well, one other thing I learned personally is when I sing soft or approach things very softly, the melodic strength of it comes out much better for me, right?
Yeah.
And if I try to be powerful, I don't tend to be that melodic, right?
Yeah, you get the strain.
I'm not a Stravinsky or whatever. I don't have that ability to. There's something to be said for that, right? I'm much more Chopin, like, not comparing myself, please.
Yeah, of course.
When I listened to Chopin early, as a teenager, the delicate nature and the melodic feel, I connected with that. The minute someone started telling me, well, blah, 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 he's just derivative, I could care less. And I still feel that way about music. I don't like the word derivative. I think it's it's just
it is true in some cases, but you can still have nice music.
It tends to put you in a rabbit hole that you're forgetting that you're missing the whole point. You're analyzing the wrong things in the expression of someone's music, right? You're starting to want to classify it, right?
I love John Williams, but he is derivative from a lot of famous stuff, but
right. But again, what does the derivative really matter, right?
It doesn't matter, but it
doesn't. But we muddy.
He's on the shoulders of giants,
Again, though, we muddy the conversation with the word, right? We kind of filter the whole thing now through this analysis that was unnecessary from because what we find out is people are fighting about derivative, blah, 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 from God knows 100, 200 years ago, right?
Totally, yeah.
And we look at it, most of us, and we don't have any context of that period. And we go, I love that.
Right.
And then someone says, well, you know what? That was actually not the first
Yeah.
person.
So,
There was
well,
someone.
actually,
Yeah, and I'd say, well, actually, I'd like to get back on
yeah.
just music, right? And
Well, here,
stop
I mean, here's the
talking
problem.
about history
Growing up doing
lessons.
science stuff, we love classifying things, no matter how you
Oh,
want
we
to put
do.
it.
Genres,
I mean,
especially. Oh,
in
my
biology, we've
God.
classified all the animals, we've classified all the chemicals, we've classified all the
Yeah. And
plants and bacteria and everything. So, I mean, we love putting things in boxes and analyzing things, and
we do it.
you know,
We do it sometimes for good reason, right?
a lot of times for bad.
And
Yeah, sure.
but a lot of when we are measuring the worth of it,
Yeah,
then we have fallen into a trap, right?
yeah.
We're getting into the word fails me, where we're really looking at something, deciding whether it has worth to us.
Reducing it
Yeah,
by overanalyzing it.
yeah. Um,
Yeah,
but I was thinking about when you're talking Loopy. So Loopy,
loopy
for me,
rules.
Loopy
Yeah,
was I haven't been really using it. It just doesn't these little tools, right? Forget about, well, you know, what can I record at? Is it 16-bit, 24-bit? Yeah, this is where we just go into these rabbit holes, and it's so depressing.
minutia. Yeah,
Yeah, and we all do it, right?
yeah.
Well, you know, I could get this interface. You know
Well,
what?
specs. People love specs and comparing stuff,
32
just like
floating bit.
cars.
Wow, I'm
Yeah,
stuck at 24 now. I'm just like, oh my god, I got my hands behind my back.
yeah.
My point was the tool, the Loopy tool, that little phone, in that time where I was just driving, which I realized was, this is not an epiphany for anyone, was the most personal time I had in my day, right?
Hmm.
Where there was nothing to do, right? I could choose what I wanted to do for that 40 minutes. Now, of course, I had to go to work, but the time didn't have to be a waste, right? So
Right.
I ended up taking a lot of those loops. A few of them I did live, with, like you were talking about. But really, what I did is I went back and was able to create some songs to it. I was really going through the melodies, which is what I like to do. It's like, what is there a melody in here? You know what I mean? Is there something really that I can expand on? You know that, and it was enormously successful a tool for me. Now I got Libby HD. He added all that wonderful stuff. My kid took
Mm.
the iPad. I've never used it. Right?
Libby
Everyone was
Pro's even
excited.
crazier.
We were waiting 10 years for it. I got it. I've never
Yeah,
used it.
yeah.
Right? But that little blue one, right? The initial one was fabulous. You know, and
Well, the
they're
great thing
all
is that
fabulous. You know,
the great thing is it encourages experimentation, and in my case, I'm doing live stuff to it, so it encourages performance. But it doesn't have to. Like you said, you can just load loops into it, pre-made or sample from something else. But no matter what, it always encourages experimentation, which is like a nice little sandbox, you know?
yeah, and it's really the really good, to me, the really good musical tools. So I was watching the Osmos. I don't know if everybody watched that
Oh
yesterday.
yeah,
Ty, and I love listening to Ty only because not only he's highly entertaining, right?
sure.
His humor's off the charts, but his perspective, and you know, obviously when he said, "Well, this is for a piano player," you know, and you're not going to get what you want out of this if you can't play piano. And he had a really, it was hard to debate it, right? It's like you
Right.
went, you know what, you can look at this from any angle you want, is really what he's saying. But you can measure what amount of, I'm already like, what measure of piano talent you need to have. But he kind of like broke through the core of it. Like, let's just get to the bottom line here.
Yeah.
If you don't like play piano at all and you're a sound designer, you're already going down the wrong path with this thing.
Well, yeah, the key bed itself doesn't lend itself to piano. It's too variable.
Well, it does lend itself to not piano. I think a lot of people got misconstrued what he was saying about piano. He was talking about piano sounds.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you
Yeah.
were trying to make, but it
But if you ever
clearly
try to
is.
play piano on Rolly
Yeah,
without
but my
turning all the
point is that
expression off, it's really hard.
if you are a pianist,
Yeah.
it is the instrument for you
Yeah.
because you're training the intricacies of your muscle memory, right? Your strength. It is absolutely the instrument for you. you're going to be 10,000 steps ahead of the non-pianist, right?
Well, you're
And
gonna play it well. The problem is you're gonna trigger the expression by accident because you're not used to the wiggle, and
you just
those
can't do it. You can't
it's
do what a
so
pianist can
subtle.
do. But
Yeah,
see,
you're
a lot
gonna
of people have a problem with that, right?
yeah
They initially want to get defensive and say, well, you don't. And it's just like, look, it's just a fact, right?
right.
And that's not, and hence why it's an instrument, right?
He also said it wasn't good for
Because,
percussion, which isn't true
yeah.
because there's some killer percussion sounds on there.
Oh, look, anybody that has even dabbled with that Hawken, not any Hawken product or that sound library,
Yeah,
right? The Egan Matrix knows it's all designed, all designed around live expression,
yeah,
right? And that's what's always, and that's why I think I was saying on Kent's show the other day, if you look at the Continue Mini, I don't have it within reach. If you look at it within wanting it, measure it up against, well, I want to do this MPE, I want to do all this. Does it do this, Dave? Can I do this? Can I go, what I'm telling you is if you sit in front of you, right, and you just get the sound library, and the connection between the two, you can't, it's doing something different, right?
right.
Well, can I do this? Can I do that? I don't know. I don't
I
know.
mean,
What
you probably
I don't
could,
care.
but it's not meant for that. All right. Yeah.
And so I can't even get into those
Yeah.
discussions because I'm going, you're already asking some, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's like somebody at work going, well, Dave, we're over here in California. We're a little slow today. Do you have anything productive you want us to do? And I go, I know that's tangential there, but my point is that I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a real life. It's the same way I feel about the instrument. I go, all I'm telling you is when I touched it, right, and I moved my fingers around differently, when I hit it like this, when I pressed it, when I moved around it, I go, I don't have nothing that does this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a guitar felt the closest to me in a weird way as analogy.
Well, someone was saying it's a lot like pedal steel.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
So.
exactly. So, this is the challenge. To me, this is the challenge for musicians going forward, right? We've got these wonderful electronic tools. We've got AI coming, right? They're going to take some of that skill, some of these advantages that we had, right? That we thought we were skipping a step.
Right.
Even if we weren't skipping a step, because I'm not judging people, I do it too. It's going to get taken away from us, and we're going to get stripped back to me, that Continue Mini or whatever, that looper, it's you and the looper. What is your imagination worth, right? What is it worth, right? What is in your soul? What can you bring through yourself to that, right?
Well, it's funny because people say I want new things, I want new tech, I want new sounds, whatever. Well, here's something incredibly new and interesting and fun. Oh yeah, it's too much work. I don't like it. It's like, well, you
It
didn't
is
even
work.
try it.
Yeah. Well, it is.
So,
I think we're all guilty of that. I'm struggling with the sample track, right? Because it's forcing me to have to learn, right? And I'm
yeah, I'm
tired.
not a fan of the interface. It's a cool little device, but it is pretty.
Yeah, I'm older.
It's
I'm
more work than it
tired.
should be. Yeah.
I'm full of other things I have to do, and I know everybody is like behind me, cheering because it's the way we all feel, right? And
Right.
I'm going, oh God.
But like the Rolly, think what you will about the company. Rolly's done a lot of dumb things along the way, but the initial idea and the tech and the feel and the expression is so incredibly amazing. And people just go, oh, it's like a dead body or a fleshlight or whatever. And it's like, you're missing the whole point. It's weird, but that's beautiful. That's why it's so cool, because it's unlike anything else.
Yeah,
And you see Kent play it,
and
it's amazing. I mean, I noodle on it, I have a lot of fun with it, but when you put the time into it and you understand all the nuances of it, until the Osmos came out, it's untouchable practically.
So what I was saying about the Osmos briefly, and I'm sure it got misconstrued, or nobody's even listening to me, so it doesn't even matter. A few people right now. I'm listening to myself, right? And that's okay too.
Sure.
When I thought I pre-ordered the more recent one, right? Because I was serious. I was like, I think I'm gonna put this upstairs, where a piano would have gone. I want to put this. Now the first thing everyone goes, it's not a piano. It's not a piano. I go, no. It's an instrument like the piano
It's
was.
a performance instrument, and it needs the
Right.
time. Yeah.
And can you imagine if I could get my 10-year-old and 9-year-old to spend, God, even 15 minutes a day?
Oh yeah.
on the Osmos, right? Learning some of that feel. It no
Are they into
different.
music in general? Do they play stuff?
I can't even go there. I
Really?
think, yeah. I don't. They're at that age where you're getting
Well,
nervous.
some kids just are. Like I
You're
was
like,
automatically as a kid, but also then, as I said earlier, I got into sports. Like music can wait for a while.
yeah, it's
And
kind
then,
of that moment.
so,
There's muscle memory.
yeah.
That, am I going to hammer it down on them now? Am I going to put the clamps down and make them go learn piano or something? I'm
I wish
almost,
my parents forced me to do piano though. It would have come in so handy right now.
but nevertheless, I thought to myself, and I'm also thinking about, I just bought another instrument. I can't even fit it in here. Where am I going to put it? So there's pragmatism in this too.
Sure.
But I thought to myself, this is really cool. Other than it not having maybe some speakers, I was like, this is maybe a cool instrument to have separated for a while, so that I can spend who knows how long just isolated. So because what does that force me to do? Well, Dave, is it MPE compatible for your other sound? Oh, it's upstairs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it almost forces you to
Right.
poo. Are you going to connect it to the computer and do this? Are you going to play it? I'm like, it's just upstairs. I just play it.
Oh, it sucks. It doesn't have Bluetooth.
How many presets? 500? You're going to get bored with those, Dave. 500.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. Here's the funny thing about that. I mentioned it in the chat of Pro Synth Network yesterday, but if you have played with stuff like the Anima Phi or the Silphio by Aodio, they make these incredible patches that there's so much latitude in them with the timbres that can be changed and the effects and just overall expression that can be applied to them, that they actually call the patches universes. They're not just patches, because one patch, as you've seen on the Osmos, a similar thing. It does this crazy shit with one patch. You can't even tell you're in the same patch anymore. You're doing so much to it.
Ty,
And so 500 is a ton
yeah.
of patches when you think about that.
And let's say you're pretending you're a composer or are a composer. Yeah. Henrik's probably the closest we got. But you end up with probably 10 patches that you go, this is it.
Yeah,
These are the 10. These are the 10 I'm going to really
that flute patch you had, that thing is
mentally program and know where I'm going to use them, right?
I know I'm going to waste a bunch of time on that flute patch.
I have to interrupt for a second and ask, is that a refrigerator that is open, or
it's a bird, right?
Strange bird?
It's a birdie in the background.
Okay, it's a bird. Okay,
yeah.
It sounds like a.
It's me. It's me. I'll fix it.
What? Oh, it's you.
It's a bird, right?
Yeah, it may be a bird.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Elliptical.
Ah, okay. Because I'll get the silicone spray. I did that with mine. Takes that squeak right out. I thought it was a bird because working at the zoo, we had that noise all the time in the zoo. All kinds of birds making noises.
But it was very almost on the beat, but then it lost some speed at that time.
Yeah. No, when I first bought my elliptical, I noticed it had a funny squeak to it, and I found the silicone spray, and it took the squeak right out. It's awesome. But
let's get back to the.
You could sample that.
Yeah. But let's get back to the Osmos and the Roly.
Yeah,
it's a good thing to talk about, I think.
Oh yeah.
I would want an Osmos myself.
I mean, even the the Continuum and also the Linstrument. Linstrument is actually really nice. I just don't like the guitar layout. It's he's a guitarist, so he laid it like a guitar fretboard. And also the pads are quite stiff on it. I know people really gravitate toward it, but I tried one at Perfect Circuit hooked to a Deckard's Dream, and the MP on it was awesome. It was very expressive and cool, but I couldn't dig. I mean, I have Circuit and I have some other pad stuff like the Force, but the way it kind of wanted you to think like a guitarist at the time, even though I do play guitar once in a while, I just didn't really gravitate toward that. So, but I can see why people would.
Yeah. I'm not inspired by that.
Yeah.
I'm more inspired by a real keyboard, like the Osmos.
Right.
The Roly looks I've been interested in it, but I'm not that interested anymore. I'm more interested in the Osmos because it's a real keyboard. You can play normal and and twist that. You can't
So
do
they
that on.
they both have things that the other one doesn't have. So if you like the idea of both, it actually is worth getting both. Like for example, on the Rolly, above the key and below the key are two totally different ribbons, and you can play them at the same time like this and do this great horror movie kind of music. You can't do that on the Osmos. You can only play the top area as a chromatic slide or glide.
Yeah,
Also, the slide function on the Rolly is very powerful, going up the key. They've done other things on the Osmos that the Rolly can't do, so that's why they're kind of complementary. I think they're not, one doesn't replace the other one. They're both very useful and both complementary. But again, if you're not into the squishy thing, if you just can't get past that, then you're never going to like the Rolly.
mm, yeah. Um, but I have been interested in it. I'm not sure if I am anymore, but but yes, you are right. I do need to be able to use that
It's
much
pretty cool, right?
information.
To have two
Yeah,
ribbons
yeah,
at once.
yeah,
The only
yeah.
thing I know that has two ribbons on it is the C15.
Mm,
There's nothing out there that has two ribbons on it. So that alone is cool. You know, I just when I discovered that, I go, oh shit, it's top and bottom ribbon, not just the top part.
mm,
And because it's squidgy, it's very easy to just make your own ribbon with the keys. You just the fingers can go anywhere. You're not limited by hard keys that force you to. Now you can fix the tuning by changing the expressiveness of the key, how the glide works, to the point
yeah.
of being totally off, where it's like a piano. And
But
that's what he's talking about with the training wheels. You know,
but how will it work if you want to control one synth by both the Rolly and the Osmos? Will there be any conflicts with the MPE configuration, or I
good point.
don't know. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Um,
I've done other stuff at the same time. Like I on some of the hardware jams, I want to have some fun with alternate chords that I'm not very good at. I'll hook that theory board up and a keyboard up to the virus, and either one can play the same patch with a MIDI merger that I have.
yeah,
So and they don't step on each other. So if that works that way, maybe those will work the same way as well. I'm not
yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean it's a lot of MIDI traffic.
yeah,
They were talking about that on the show yesterday about editing MPE and how much more data you're sending down the pipe now, and it's crazy, right?
yeah,
And just as long as the pipe can handle it, doesn't really matter. But if you really want to sit and edit, just replay it.
yeah,
You know, that's the whole reason why I went mostly DAWless anyway, because I don't want to sit there and massage something forever. I want to play it. I want to get better at playing. I want to finish something and move on to something else. I don't want to massage a track for 6 months, you know. That's what that editing entails. You get in there, oh, I want to fix this one aftertouch I screwed up on, and you edit these curves and stuff. I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered with that. I understand why people want to do it. I just don't want to do it. You know,
yeah. When we are around that, um, USB, when you use USB MIDI, are you still running the same bitrate as standard MIDI? Or I have the
I mean,
feeling you are.
MIDI spec is MIDI spec. I would imagine
Yeah,
it's the same, but I'm not
but
sure.
the spec is, of course, on the hardware, it's about the bitrate, but it shouldn't be when we're talking the newer hardware. It should just follow the protocol, uh, but that's not the speed as I see it.
Yeah,
But as I understand USB MIDI, it's still the same bitrate as standard MIDI,
it
and I
should be right because they're supposed to be compatible. So
yeah,
I can't
but
imagine you
you're
could have two flavors and still be called MIDI one
yeah, but
or
on
MIDI one
USB
one or whatever.
you could, for example, transmit four uh, ports at the same time with 16 channels each. Um, um, okay, you could solve it like that, of course, and still have the same bit rate.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's some of that.
yeah,
You probably saw the picture I put on Facebook a while back about the MIDI SysX book I bought. It's like I do occasionally delve into the nerdy stuff in there, but most of the time I don't. So some of the specs like that I don't know.
Okay. We we still need to know a little. Oh, I don't know. Have you said everything about how you got into music and all that
Oh,
stuff?
there's always more bullshit I could go on and bore the hell out of people, but
Nice.
basically, that's that's where I am now.
Yeah.
I when I was into VSTs a lot, I was playing a lot more with DAWs. I'm like, that's just so amazing. You can do all this stuff, but it also being an IT guy for years. I left the sciences as a profession and went into IT because it just made more sense at the time. I needed to make more money for things that were going on. Biology doesn't pay jack shit, you know.
Mm.
You do it because you love it, right? And when my mom died, I was kind of bummed out. I wasn't really interested in graduate school at the time, and I just kind of put on the back burner. I get into corporate life, make a lot of friends, make money, buy synths. I'm like, hey, 10 years has passed. I guess I'm not going back to school, you know. So I still have all these science outlets like the microscope channel and reading lots of stuff and engaging online with some friends who are science people and stuff. But I, my science stuff is limited compared to what it used to be. So it gives me more time now for music and for I did a lot of graphics and video stuff for years. I talked to Kent all the time about 3D stuff. I mean, when I stopped playing games and wasted so much time with games, even though they were fun, they just took a lot of my day. Because you get in these virtual games and you just get lost and the whole fucking day is gone. I was like, it's fun, but it's not productive unless you're a game tester or whatever. I have other things I want to do and want to do. So I just had to cut myself off cold turkey and said, no, I need to get into this other stuff. And part of that was by getting away from the computer for anything but work and some internet stuff and whatever. It did allow me to put more time into learning the synths and performing and figuring things out and not so much time on the damn DAW and tracking things and making things perfect and agonizing over details and stuff like that. Because if I'm a professional, that makes sense. I need to make the best product I can make, and you need to do everything you can do to make it a perfect package. But I'm not getting paid to do that. I only have so much free time, and I need to get better at learning things and performing. I don't want to waste all that time on the computer. I already spend all day and most of the night on the computer for work anyway. I want to get away and sit with like what David was saying. Take the instrument in another room. Don't even have it sometimes near other instruments, and just focus on that instrument and just play it and learn it and have fun. And it's a different mindset, and it encourages not only giving your brain a break but also learning stuff better. I think instead of having everything all just like funneling in at the same time, it's overkill.
Mm.
Sit there and learn. I had to do this with some modular stuff a while back. I'm like, I got all these modules. I don't know how any of them works really. I figured out basics and here and there, but I'm gonna
Preach.
tonight. Yeah, tonight I'm gonna learn this module and this module. I download the manuals. I'm just gonna learn something on this thing, and maybe I will be totally unproductive. That's fine. This has to be done because I feel stupid having this nice stuff that I barely use correctly. And again, if I'm in the computer playing with stuff all the time, I'm never going to learn that stuff. So I don't even have the PDF on the computer. It's either on the iPad, so it's separate, or I print it out, or and it just go away. And that's why I like portable devices so much because not only can you make a jam in the woods or something like that, or with a beautiful view, which inspires you, but it keeps you away from all the other crap, all of the distractions, the computer, the people, the internet in general, all that stuff. You just
I think
focus and
yeah, that's what park bench is all about, right?
yeah, it's like the
I mean,
Darren in his park bench.
I'm
He gets his Bastil
interrupted,
out and
but so that's the underlying concept, right?
yeah,
That's really what it's trying to do is extract us from our everyday and bring us back to where it's just us and whatever the music or the instrument. I'd rather look at it. And it is just a constant battle, isn't it? I mean, it's
yeah.
whew, um, But I don't want to. Yeah, I don't think any of us really want to shade a DAW, because we can use the DAW just as a nice glorified tape recorder with unlimited tracks, with the ability to go in and tweak the EQ at the end, right? So we
I
can't
mean, DAWs
really
are amazing.
DAW.
I love the
You know what I
concept of
mean? It's
DAWs,
our
and
own
yeah,
problem that we
yeah.
can't. And I think you're alluding to this. We can't just isolate it without 32 bit. You know, oh, 190. We just, you know what I mean? It's
Well,
like
it's
we're our
endless
own worst
fixing and
enemies.
fiddling, and it's like
You
just
know,
play it and move on. Like that's why prog rock is so great because the guys are just playing and they're done.
but to your point about
You know,
modular, so the big thing for me this year is I pulled out. I got this system and I got 24 modules in there. I have more. I put them all pretty much away, and I decided that this was. I really wanted just to use them. You know, I wanted to force myself for a
mhm.
yearish, right? Maybe it's 6 months, and I just want to see where they fit, really, ultimately, right? And I gotta stop changing them, introducing them, because I'm honestly, I still don't know mutable beats.
Mhm.
Now, if you sat there and asked me, okay, yeah, well, Dave, it's just an envelope, and then it's a tape loop thing, and it does a tape head, and you go, yeah, yeah, you're not listening to me then. What I'm saying is, I
Yeah,
don't know how to look at it, say, I know exactly how I'm going to use beats today with this sound. I don't know how I'm going to use beats. I know what I'm going to do with it, right? I already can see it. I'm there just like, oh, yeah, that's right. This is the envelope. And then
right.
if 2 months go by, you go back to it. You're like, what does this do again? Okay, that's an attenu randomizer. I know the word. What does that really mean when I run drums through it, right? What
Yeah.
is attenu randomizer? This little thing, how's it going to change it? Well, it's an attenu randomizer, Dave. I go, I know it's an attenu
Yeah, come on,
randomizer.
man, get with it. What?
The right side goes, randomize, and the left side,
Yeah,
again, I have no idea what it's actually going to do when I run different sounds through it, right? Now, versus growing up, right? You had an API, you might have had a little lunchbox or something, or you
mhm.
had your Mackie. You kind of knew what it was going to do, right? But
Yeah,
then you're like, oh, I'm putting it through the Mackie, and it's going to saturate it. I know what this EQ does a little bit. I know what this delay does. Modular's just nuts, man. It is
yeah.
just nuts.
It's a
It's
whole
so
different beast.
beautiful, and it's also just, oh my god, it just kills you. It
Well, that's one of
just
the great things about it is you can buy a module. You can just, I mean, I'm not going to read the manual. I'm not going to watch too many videos other than what made me buy it. I'm gonna just figure it out, play with it, have some fun, explore. Right? Oh, that's cool. I found some cool stuff. That's fun. And after a while, I go, you know what? Okay, now it's time to read the manual because I'm not getting the most out of it. I still don't really know how to use maths that well. I have the fact one of my original modules I bought was maths, and it's a very useful, cool, functional
oh, it's
module.
amazing. But I don't
But
have it.
I don't use it well. I don't spend enough time on it, and I know I
It's
could
just
learn
a
a lot more
function
from it.
generator, Andy. It's just a function generator.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, but that's the point of you can have fun with this stuff without almost any knowledge at all and just tinkering because most of the time you can patch things, you won't break it, whatever. Either won't work or it will work, or you might get some weird results. But at some point you go, okay, now how do I really leverage this thing correctly? Not just how it was designed, but for other clever techniques.
Yeah,
And then I start combing through the manuals, watching some extra videos and go, oh man, that is so cool. I should have done that in the beginning. But at the same time, the blind exploration in the beginning was fun and valuable. So,
that's the endorphin rush.
yeah.
That's that. And the worst thing can happen is you get lucky in that first 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and it does something awesome, and then the next 5 times you use it, you go, what happened? I can't get it back. And Beats is like that, right? And then you can just say, because it's like clouds. It's the same
Right.
concept, right? Mutable clouds. And you just go, well, I'm just going to use the best one to read people. I just use the reverb. It
Yeah.
sounds great. And you're like, no, it does sound great. I get it.
Mhm.
But come on.
It's so much more. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do
Well,
that.
this is why, I had all this stuff for a while and I was doing some demos and stuff on SoundCloud and all that. And then said, you know what? I want to do some other stuff for a while. I'm not getting the most out of modular. I need to, I want to get more modules, but I also want to learn more. So I literally put it away for about a year and just doing other stuff with the hardware, jam stuff, the synths and loopers and all kinds of stuff. And finally, I said, I think I want to go back to modular now. I think it's about time. And I have a lot more fun now with it than I did. Even though it was fun initially, I got to the point where because I didn't learn it well enough, my mindset was not right. I just was really blindly noodling and just making a lot of stuff people accuse modular of doing, which is weird, plinky plonky kind of nonsense
which
with a
is
little bit of melody. And I was like, now I'm doing more songs with it because I have a different mindset with it. So
and that's what if you can't like devote time to it regularly, consistently, you're
yeah,
gonna go plinky plunky with it, and
hmm
it is a lot of fun.
yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but then of course that little voice. Well, what productive are you doing with this, Dave? Are you putting
Well,
out music? What are you? What
sure.
did you?
But
So
then
you're
again, yeah, as I was saying before,
not really a
I
musician.
didn't do any music for like 15, 20 years. So I was just doing like experiments and stuff. And so I don't mind the fact that if you don't have any results. That's why initially modular was just fun because I'm like, hey, I'm experimenting. Oh, 4 hours just went by. I have nothing to show for it other than just some fun that I had.
Well,
But I learned from the other guys who do modular a lot. I said just record everything you do if you can, and then chop it up later if you find some gems in there. You know?
yeah. I mean, we all have different tolerances for how much we
Yeah,
can like contain before we blow up, combust, right?
yeah,
I think I'm at that stage where I feel like I'm gonna combust
yeah,
mentally. I'm actually at some kind of weird state of paralysis when I come
yeah.
down to the studio, and everyone could give me a million things that I could do to change it. I've tried a lot of them, and it's not that. It's all in my head. It's because
Yeah.
I
Sometimes you
actually
just get in a
now
funk, right? You can't.
I know it all is there. It's like you opened it up the aisle at the store, and now I know there's 150 different types of potato chips, and
Yeah,
I know all the differences. And you can say, "Well, Dave, you just got to pick one." And I go, I know that, I get it. But there's 150. It used to be five. It used to be like
yeah,
Pringles,
yeah.
Doritos, corn chips, and like Utz. There's not what's happening anymore. Like
Well,
you
yeah.
got
Option
to
paralysis
check
is a
this
real
out.
thing.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. There's
it's a
like
real deal.
spicy this, not spicy, nacho this.
Yeah,
Some of them are fluffy and crunchy. Some of them are crispy. You can scoop with some. Others you don't scoop. Some are, and it's just like there's no going back. Mentally, there's no going back.
yeah.
It's but it doesn't mean we can't function. It's just the reality of, you know what I mean. I don't mind it. I don't want to talk about first world problems. I don't need anybody to explain to me blah blah blah. Blah. I hear. I know that all you're
Yeah,
doing is muddying the conversation.
sure.
Some kind of agenda you have for yourself. I'm telling you what is happening right now in this room, right? And I know I'm the worst enemy of it, but it's the curiosity, though, right? That's the trap. We're curious,
Yeah,
right? The music isn't something you get into if you're not a curious person, right?
right.
It That's exactly why you get into it because it's kind of unlimited
Well,
in the
some of it
expression,
is imitative
right?
too. Like you want to be like, oh, I like that. I want to make stuff that sounds like that because it makes me feel good. So some people have just simple motives. They're not necessarily driven to experiment to compose. They just want, oh, I want to make stuff that sounds just like that, and that's valid. There's some people out there who want to do that.
That's a skill. Let's be
Yeah,
honest. It's a
sure.
skill and it's valuable,
Yeah,
right? And and that's why my brother used to be kind of a jerk about it. And he'd call them the eternal practitioners, and all the people in the symphony.
yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty arrogant, but that's not really, there's a real gift to that, and
Hell
it's
yeah, it's hard work.
historical, and there's all the interpretation going
Yeah,
on that you're dismissing the technique, the way they're tweaking it. But regardless, you know what I mean.
yeah,
As musicians, and we all know this, especially as you get older, you gotta find yourself, right,
yeah,
and not let yourself get lost. Um, and I think personally, that's where I'm trying to refine my what I want to do, right? Not what I can do,
yeah.
what I want to do, right? I can't do everything. Well, Dave, you just need to go down there 3 or 4 hours a day, or Dave, you got to do this. I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I know these are the conversations, right? I already hear like what somebody wants to help, right? I'm
I
like,
mean, it's hard to force it, but just like I was saying with the piano practice, it's boring as hell, but it is important to force yourself to do those
hmm
things or the drum rudiments or whatever. fundamental stuff, it is important. And God, it's painful and annoying, but they can really pay off in the end. But the creative stuff, it's really hard to do that with.
It's the pick. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
what do they call it? The muse or whatever.
yeah.
Uh, and
And
it
you go,
is a
oh,
lot.
get oblique strategies. Well, they're just going to give you some wild ideas that may or may not help. You might just laugh at it, right? So it's like,
Yeah, but to your point, a lot of even
yeah,
it is labor, right? It
yes,
is. There is a time. If you, we've all heard the stories, like Robert Smith with the Cure, and he said, "Look, woke up every day and I worked every day writing music." That guy
yeah,
was not just doing it. It wasn't like, "Hey man, we're gonna make another album,
right,
dude."
yeah,
No, that's discipline.
sure,
And
yeah,
you can sit
discipline.
there and say, "Well, I don't like the Cure," and I go, "I don't care if you like the Cure. If you listen to their
Yeah,
discography,
they're great.
the territory he's covered, the sounds, it's clearly someone who's worked very hard, right?
Well, I like the fact that they did some stuff that wasn't just. I mean, people know the commercial stuff, but like a forest is a great jam,
It was
and
even his
it's just
proggy, newer, jammy stuff with the guitar. Yeah, he's a good guitar player.
yeah,
Not guitar like just feel, right?
yeah,
Tone. Like he can jam.
yeah.
Like he can just, I mean, he could get up there and jam with prog rockers. He's got the chops.
The
Not to
one
say
thing I have to joke about
he's
though,
got the
because yeah,
feel.
because I was a fan of them growing up and stuff, but the vocals always made me laugh a little bit because just kind of
Yeah,
cry
well, it
singing that,
happens.
and
Because the next thing you thought was Hot Topic, and then you saw the Goth Kids, and then you just saw.
well that, but also the sound because my dog used to howl at the sirens, and at
No,
some
I
point of the
get it.
howl
His
he would do
voice.
that,
Well, that's the way I feel about Green Day,
you know.
right? I wince when that guy
So,
sings. The minute my wife loves him and he loves the band, it's fine. The minute I hear his voice, I go, God, turn that guy off. I can't
yeah,
listen to that guy.
yeah. I
Like
mean,
that
certain
is
things grab
just
you, certain things you can't stand. Like
oh,
nails on a
just makes
chalkboard.
me. But so we all know this. It's just
Yeah,
look, we got busy lives, and there's more to life than just music, and
sure.
that's what gets so complicated, right? But this tech stuff is crazy, and it's really cool.
But that's what's great about music now is that, yeah, you could just be a sound designer. You don't have to make any music. You could be a sampling guy and just make sample packs. You can be a technical guy and make drum patterns for somebody that are just mathematical. You know,
And they
there's
set the trap that but yet we got this really bizarre DIY culture thing going on. And I call it weird because it's completely not in flow with what's actually happening in the world. How
yeah,
we're all connected. There's all this rapid, but yet we got this real like internal struggle to bring it all back. Right? We're gonna be a farmer. I'm gonna get some land and just farm my own crap and make my own eggs, and it's just ridiculous, right? You realize there's billions of people.
some people want to reduce and be
It's
simple and
ridiculous as a
yeah,
concept,
yeah,
right? It's a broader concept. We're doing it for ourselves, right? We're not
yeah.
going to change a damn thing in this world, according to that.
It's
You know what I
it's
mean?
hard. Yeah, it's hard to change.
But so I don't know. I feel the same way about music. This is the future, right? So we got to go with it. Ultimately, this is the right path we're doing, right? This is where it's all heading. That's why we're exciting, but it's also exhausting. So I guess that's my whole thing.
I mean, I admit a lot of times I'm an old man when it comes to modern music. I don't listen to a lot of modern music because it's either like we're saying derivative. I know it's a negative term, but it is. There's like, oh, that's that riff from whatever, that's a riff from whatever, and I like the original so much better. Or they took this and made a little, put it in a blender, and I don't like the output, you know. And I'm not saying that people aren't talented or whatever, because who am I to judge? But it's just a lot of modern stuff, and I find some gems here and there. But a lot of modern stuff, I don't know. I'm more of like it's like movies. When I used to go to Blockbuster back, not long ago when they still existed, I would go to the old movie section. I would not go to new releases. And even if it's a movie I've seen before, I go, yeah, I don't own that. I'll rent that. I like that movie. Compared to some of the modern movies that are coming out that are just like stories I've either seen before or actors I don't like you know, or some horrible, silly blockbuster like something by Roland Emmerich, where it's just the same movie over and over again with different characters. Lots of money and
I
lots
don't
of
know. I think we
nonsense
just can't
and no
keep up.
science in
It's
the.
just
You
too
know, it's a
much.
science fiction movie with no science. So,
I
There's a lot
was
of there's a lot of young musicians are fusing. They're playing. They're jamming together. I just think we can't
yeah,
keep up. Right? It's
it's hard.
just,
Yeah, it
you know
keep,
what I mean. It's so fragmented. You know. It's um. You know. So I'm now. Do I think that we're dumbing down some of the technical stuff? Yeah, sure we are. Right? We've been
yeah,
doing that though since the '50s. Right?
yeah.
We were doing all sheet music and sketching everything out. Composers were right, like you know how Ty talks about knowing the ranges for a bassoon or a
Oh yeah,
flute
that's a huge thing.
and knowing the
Because when
key
people
they're
got
in. Oh,
samplers, they
that's what my
didn't do it
dad,
right.
right? My dad could do all that
Yeah,
stuff, right? He could talk it to you, right?
yeah,
And I can't do it, right? Um, and he was not really a total professional. He was kind of what we were doing, but just but that's what they did, right?
yeah.
That's what they did. So I don't know. I feel like I'm a hack compared to him, and then the next generation, I'm going to feel like they're a hack because they're going to go more and more to the tech side of things, right? They're
Yeah.
going to push the tech to the limit, um, and I'm going to be like, can you even
before
play? You know?
before we continue. Besides saying welcome to Keyth, I have a video from Down Under, and I would like to play it. It's 1.5 minutes, so it's not a long one. And it's from Chris, from also called Mike Shifter. So let's see. This is the first time I try to play a video, so let's see how it works. Seems to not be working. Well, it was a video from Mike, or Chris.
Makeshifter. Yeah,
Yeah, Mike Shifter.
yeah. That's cool.
And that's the
He's a busy
project
boy there.
he's doing this year. It was mono. I'm sorry about that. I know now that next time I connect from another computer, I have to change the settings to make it stereo. So, yes. Anyone wants to say anything about these projects? Would love
Well,
if Chris came online.
I think he's set himself a wonderful task for the year, and you can see more of him than him just sitting at a desk and talking into a camera and things like that. There's much more behind the man than maybe we all realise.
Yeah, he's doing some very interesting stuff. We
It's a
don't
lot of
know
work.
everything.
A lot of projects.
Yeah. I know he's 7 minutes behind on the video, so if he gets online, it's probably after 7 minutes. So let's see if he comes. But welcome, Keyth. How has your week been?
Just full of work. I had a couple of
Have
bits
you
turn
got
up
more
this
space?
No, I've got less space now because this turned up.
Hey, there's Mark II.
So that's
Is that the
turned up.
rolling looper?
Well, it's Boss, isn't it? But
It's a Mark II, right? The new one.
yeah, sorry, it's the Mark II. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really useful. That's
Yeah,
that's like loopy in hardware.
They're fun, yeah.
New stuff.
I just think, yeah, it might be one step closer to the, at least one hardware jam, to get ideas down, moving. Yeah.
My first couple hardware jams, I used that same one. I had the Mark I, but I have two of them, and I used them for my first hardware jams. They're fun. They're great.
But I mean, the one thing I forgot to say last week when I was talking about my gear and music history and everything is I'm still doorless. So anything I do goes through the mixer and onto a SD card in a Tascam. I think it's a D60 Mark II little stereo recorder. So, I'm sort of still limited to what I can do anyway. I'm just trying to maybe make things a bit easier in one piece of equipment to at least get something, I don't know, to sort of start driving forward. I'm not great at drums and percussion and things like that. So, just thinking it might get something going, along with some other stuff, because obviously hardware jams are live, aren't they? So
most of the time, not everyone does it though. If you watch a lot of them are like pushing buttons and just a little bit of live stuff. So
yeah,
they have a lot of leeway.
But
I like the live. I do mine live, but it's
But
isn't like
the other thing,
jam? I mean, that they record.
It's a mixed
thing
bag.
The other thing is they can also cloud their videos because they can put other, they can play videos over their music anyway. When so it's just to get my first one done will be something. I think
the good thing too is that it's easy to pull your individual tracks off there. So if you do want to put it in a DAW or do something else with it, it's very easy to use those pieces later. You're not just stuck with the box.
Yeah.
I think that's a great choice, Pet, what you got. I've wanted one for a while. That is exactly what that's for. Is syncing everything up, jamming. You can jam. You know what I mean? I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, not much. There's various people out there that use them, and it's just the way they just build up tracks. You've got 5 tracks on there, haven't you? They just build up. You can just,
Well, you can also step in and out, so you can also build, destructively build tracks on there too. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just it's probably a means to an end. To just say, just get me going. I've got the manual here to read, so just need to get it wired up a little bit now, and probably do that tomorrow.
The other fun thing is you can have every single one not synced, or 2 synced and 3 not synced. You have a lot of variability of how you choose to loop. Some can be long loops, some can be timed to a predetermined time and just trigger, and some can keep going until you hit stop, and then it just keeps looping at that point. So they're very flexible. You have a lot of choices. Plus the input and output effects are awesome because you don't necessarily have to have all those effects handy, and use the input effects on the while you're recording, which is nice.
Yeah.
Don't you think the sample track kind of is sort of the same thing, but not anywhere?
No, it's more of a song builder.
Well, I'm thinking it's got a looper, but then it's got those couple tracks at the end where you can just kind of jam, right? I don't think they have to be synced.
It does, but if you look at how many button presses you have to do, it's just not as immediate. I don't want to badmouth it because I do like the unit, but I need to spend more time with it because it's just every groove box I've ever had was a lot more approachable. Like DR202 was killer, super simple, had a nice filter. You know, Electribe EMX1 is one of my favorites ever. Just incredibly powerful, but also easy as hell to use. So they're not really groove. It's not really groove box, and not really. It does have looping features, but its main goal seems to be song building. It's not a typical groove box. Um, Lo-Fi 12 is more of a punch in, punch out, have a lot more real time fun, I think, kind of device. Um, but yeah, the RC505s are great. I wish they had more tracks because 5 was great for a while, and that's why I bought a second one because it wasn't enough. And that's why I went to Loopy because it's 12 loops. But just to get things down and just have fun and the built-in effects, 505 is a killer box. So you're gonna have fun with that.
Are there any
I
of
hope so.
these loopers which can do something live with? For example, if I sing into the machine and I want my words cut off while I sing it, like it was possible on the old Boss Pedal DS2 or what it was called, digital sampler delay, DSD2 I think it was called. Can these loopers do that live, or is it only recording and looping what you're recording?
It has live effects on it, but they only do so much in the live effects. So, and once you record a loop, you can tweak it too. You know.
Yeah, but I want to do it while I sing it. For example, if I sing something and then I want this word to repeat and then the word before it, and you know what I mean.
It's not really good for that. I mean, you could probably figure out some weird way to do that, but it's not really out of the box.
But is there something that can do that today?
What about on a pedal? Would you be able to?
Like a slicer pedal or something?
Would you be able to start the loop on a pedal? Because it's got pedal inputs, hasn't it?
Yeah, I use the double pedal with it.
Yeah.
There's a double pedal, so you can do start, stop, and also effect tweak or something like that. But
okay,
it's definitely really good. But you know, it doesn't do. Like they could add more features, but then it would also convolute it, right? I see why they made it more sparse, so it's more fun. If there's too many hidden features and too many this and that, then it takes away the immediacy of the whole device. So,
but yeah, I think that's what I like about it. There's a certain amount of buttons, and there's a little bit of menu diving. There's not, this appealed to me more than the Live and did.
Yes, and the sliders are great too because you can just all the things at once, or all the things, or individually kill various volumes on things, or bring volumes down very quickly with the sliders. That's really nice.
Yeah, and you can overdub anyway, can't you, as well?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. There's some nice tricks in there.
Yeah, I think there is. I think you might be able to do what Henrik's asking to do, with possibly overdubs rather than picking points in a loop to stop, start, or whatever, or to repeat. You might be able to pick it up that way.
Yeah.
So if you set the effects not to affect loops, and you can just use live effects only and not have it affect your loops, you can take them out of circuit. Then you could use it as a vocal processor live and not worry about recording any of it. So you have options there too, like what effects go on what buses. And so you could just make it live input only for effects, and loops are just whatever's coming in on the audio channel, not from the mic channel, not from the input. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit, but basically there is some flexibility there.
Yeah. Else it should be modular, I think, like beats and clouds and things like that. looper.
But you're thinking more like a granularizer thing where you can chop things up
Yeah,
and sweep through
yeah,
it. And,
maybe. I'm not sure. I may be thinking it too advanced. Perhaps I should think it more simple. The boss pedal I talked about was more simple. It was only sample or play,
yeah.
and then you could change the speed on that.
Well, you could run
So
it through. You could run the pedal through the looper. That would
yeah,
be
Yeah.
it.
Or mix them together at the
And
end.
just
Yeah.
pop it off, and then
Yeah.
you could loop both ways. I know that again. That's adding another thing, but um, yeah, no. The first thing I was thinking of was, oh yeah, just take beads, mutable, run it through
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But you won't
The
have much
tricky
control. It's gonna kind of
the tricky thing is getting them synced too.
surgical.
So if sync matters to you, then that could be hard. You know.
Oh yeah, no. I think it's a cool tool though. I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I've only got a week with it, and then I go on holiday, so it's almost tempting to take it with me.
You can run a power bank on it
Almost.
and make it portable.
Well, not quite that. Wasn't quite thinking that, but just saying, you know, it's almost tempting to take it away and just take some headphones and something else, plug into it. I might try that
Yeah.
actually. Might give that a thought.
It's interesting how one piece of equipment can really change, just kind of jumpstart everything. I remember when I got my Zoom R8, just that little multi-track for my
Mm.
live thing, just getting it. I don't know what happened. I just got into this mode and I was just like, whoa, okay. And it got me out of a big, slump a while ago. And I used that for a couple of years. I loved it. So I think this is another one of those types of tools. That's my guess. If it does that, it's paid for itself 1,000 times.
Another great thing about the looper is it's very easy to do. I've done a bunch of one synth all parts jams. So you basically just keep changing presets and tweaking stuff. So you get rhythm out of it, you get bass out of it, you get some leads and pads and stuff, all off one piece of gear and the looper. It's all you need. Make a whole song with just one piece of gear. It's pretty amazing.
Another thing, I've been looking at the Roland SP44. I may be interested, but I'm not sure. Does any?
The new one's a huge upgrade. I mean, I have the
Yeah,
original,
not too.
which is fun,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have velocity on the pads.
Oh, it should have, and you can switch.
The new
it
one
on
does,
off.
but the old
Yeah.
one does not.
Oh.
It also doesn't have a nice screen. It's just LEDs.
Yeah.
So harder to use that way. So the new one, they've really upped the game on it, and it's definitely tempting. Even though I already have one, it's tempted to get a new one just because they fixed a lot of issues the other one didn't have.
Yeah. And there's a DJ mode where you can do some of those effects I'm talking about, but I'm not sure if you can do all one on one. But is it worth purchasing if you already have? I have a Force and I have Force. So
It's a hell of a lot more portable than a Force, though. I mean, they designed it for guys to take in the field and do hip hop and rap stuff with it because the built-in mic and the battery operation and the built-in effects and stuff, it's quite powerful on its own.
Yeah.
And I imagine the looping on it is good too. So it's also a looper, and all that as well. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I've seen some videos, but I'm a little tired. Each time I watch a video about the 404, the person making the video is saying, "You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, there's a different audience for that because
yeah.
The original target. If you watch the old Roland Nam videos, they targeted at hip hop and rap guys for the SP404. I bought it for Halloween sound effects. I mean, I was able to fire off all kinds of stuff and scare the kids at my brother's house. It was a lot of fun. But I wasn't even thinking music because I was doing sound stuff again. But I've used it in a lot of hardware jam projects to fire off samples and to make some simple. The original one was hard to make songs in it because again, it didn't have any kind of beat matching stuff. It didn't have velocity. It was more sloppy, which is cool for certain styles of music, right? You don't want it to be robotic 100%. A lot of hip hop stuff is very loose. And so, but yeah, so when they realized they want a bigger audience, they kind of added a hell of a lot more in the new version. So, because they had 3 versions till before this one. There's the original SD, the compact flash card version I have. Then they made the fancy one, which is an SD card version. Then they made an IRA version because it's just rebranding with the same crap with a green label. It's the same exact one. And now they have this new one, which totally redesigned everything with the screen and the more features and more pads. The original had 10 pads. This has 12 pads, I think. Something like that.
I think it's 4x4, 16.
16 pads, yeah, sorry. The original was 12 pads. So they've totally tweaked the hell out of it. But same form factor, same amount of I/O, and just a much better screen and more feedback and stuff. So.
Yes. Okay. Behringer, they are announcing that they will release some stuff in the spring and summer. What do you think about that? Are they doing it this time?
It's all about the chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got those chips arguments.
Yeah, they keep using the chips shortage for that.
I think they had a really awful year, right? I mean, they really 2022 could not have been what they expected, right? From their so I think it's coming. I think that little VS, the little there's a couple other ones coming out. I think we're going to see them. I hope so. I'm actually kind of.
And the Soul Synth, those little mini ones, right?
Yeah, that's honestly though. It's.
I'll get them. Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get exhausted spending so much money, you know.
Yeah.
And you just want a little treat, and bless their hearts, they are good at that. So,
yeah.
I'm actually the VS one. I'm really excited. Anything that might get in here, and I just start writing a couple tunes, or run it through the modular or something, or whatever. I'll be super excited. So I vote. Yeah, they're going to pull it off. I think they have to.
I hope so, because I'm going to get the Pro 800 and the SH copy.
The Pro 800, yeah. People
the Roland copy. So, yeah.
I've heard some other forums, some less. I don't know, just different, not modular people, but the Pro 800, they're very, very excited about a lot of people. It's a lot to do with the price point and just the sound, you know, that for better or worse, it's kind of like the Moog stuff, right? It's always going to have an appeal. You know, next generation's going to go, yeah, Prophet, yeah, Oberheim, yeah, Moog. It's not going away, that's for sure.
Sequential. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when their Oberheim copy is going to come out.
And that's the Pro 800. No, that's sequential.
They're what do they call it again?
Yeah, we don't even know anymore because it's been so.
I forgot.
XA or XA, I think.
It was some version of that. Yeah, it was and the initial demo was like terrible, and then all of a sudden a nice demo came out.
So. Roger says UBXA. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, UBXA. That's it.
Yeah. How could we not remember that? It's like the modules, right?
He had to put his damn initials in there, right? Uli Behringer. So.
Yeah.
Say he just comes all the way. Just be the Uli XA or something. You know, just go for it.
I also look forward to the CS80 clone. I don't know if I must admit I don't use the CS80 in the Arturia V collection much. I did in a period, but
I used the old one from a long time ago. That was fun.
I love the old one originally.
With the fan? It had the fan in it.
Yeah, I don't use it much anymore, but it was one of my favorites.
That was great, yeah.
I still have the Prophet, the
I
combo.
have all the old ones. Yeah, the ones they basically put inside the Origin.
Where they have the V and the VS and they're stacked.
Yeah.
I think they got rid of it on the new ones, if I recall. And
Yeah.
I kept that one because I thought that was super
Well,
cool.
the original Moog modular was so cool. I'm like, God, look at this thing. This is crazy. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Should we wrap it up for today? Or...
Probably, yeah. I gotta get going.
Yeah, I go back to bed for a while.
Yeah.
I think I gotta walk the dogs.
Yeah.
They probably hate me right now.
It's fun,
It
though.
was great to have you on.
Thanks, Henrik. Appreciate it.
Hope to see
Thanks,
you
yeah.
another time, and hope Ranzee is back from holiday next week, so I can spend some time with the wife.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I should be in Scottyland next week on holiday, so I may be around. I may be having to be sociable.
Where in Scotland?
Aviemore.
Aviemore? I don't know where that is.
It's do you know where Inverness is?
No, not exactly.
No,
I think it's
okay.
at the border.
Is that hilly country or is it pretty flat?
Oh yeah, it's the Highlands.
Highlands. Oh, nice.
It's Scottish Highlands. Yeah, proper.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Bits of mountain, bits of lochs, bits of trees.
Gotta go visit Connor MacLeod, right?
Sorry,
Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, Highlander.
they're probably around there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in Scotland once. I remember there was a hill where when you stopped the car and it was like this, pointing upwards. If you release the gear, it would begin rolling upwards. I know it was an illusion, but do you know where it is in Scotland?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never.
We have a place in Santa Cruz called the Mystery Spot. Same kind of thing. It's just a bullshit illusion.
Yeah, it's an illusion.
They build the fence a certain way so your eyes are seeing the hills a certain way, and they say, "Watch this ball roll uphill."
Yeah.
Or watch how you stand on this side of the board and the other person stands there, and one looks giant and one doesn't. And then we were there, nerding out, and we're also going to bird watching. So we had our field guides that are the same, put them on the same board. Go, yeah, you can just totally see this is just bullshit, right? It's just your optical illusions, right?
Yeah, but bullshit can be fun.
It is fun. I mean, some people believe it. They think that they actually say there's this thing called the Force that is controlling this area called the Mystery Spot.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of VR?
Yeah. Well, the Force is the money coming out of your wallet.
Where we're going, baby.
Electric Bray, Grace is saying it's called Electric Bray.
Oh wow! Hey, Grace.
Okay.
Crazy.
I'll have to look it up then, because I don't know how far away that is. I know Scotland's a biggish place, so it's not. See if it's anywhere near where we've ever been, and never. Can't believe that we've been going up there for 30 odd years and never heard of. Well, we've heard of it, but never actually looked it up to see where it is. See if it's somewhere we could get to and experience.
If you go to Glasgow, you can visit Signal Sounds and buy some more modular.
Well, we do drive sort of round Glasgow, but not at the time of the morning that we'd be able to pop in.
My coworker lives in Glasgow, and I told him to go visit, but he's a metalhead. He's not interested in modular, so.
What a shame.
Yeah, he's missing out.
All right, well, I better definitely take off before I get in trouble with the family, so I snuck down here, so... Everybody have a nice day. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff, everybody.
Yeah, and see you all next week somewhere, hopefully.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care, everybody.
Yeah. See you, David.
Cheers.
Here, see you, Keith. See you, Andy. See you, Henrik.
And then I will end this with a video. Video from 2012. Well, let's see if I can find it here. Let's see.
Is your video?
Oh yes, it's a video I made a song I made long time ago. Yeah. So let's see if it's the one I'm sharing here. It's not. Okay. So thanks for being here, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Oh, I muted the sound. Great. Well, it's still in mono, so let's quit it. I'll do that another time. So have a nice evening, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
I'm still live.